revealed how a single mother delivery girl inspired a millionaire CEO over 8 incredible models. Emily adjusted her tote bag strapped across her shoulder, her fingers dancing over her bicycle's handlebars, and she felt a rush of determination surge through her. This was another day of pedaling through the vibrant city, one she navigated with a grin, even if the weight of her struggles bore down heavily. A single mother at 33, her life revolved around delivering warm meals and raising her spirited daughter, Bella. But each turn and each street felt like an uphill battle. Her heart sank when she thought of the bills piling up and the unending search for stability. Tapping into her resilient nature, she caught her breath. How could she ever elevate Bella's life when her world felt so small? Every delivery was a reminder of the distance she had yet to traverse. Each time she smiled at a customer, a nagging doubt whispered in the back of her mind, would her hard work be enough? And, even worse, a thought she couldn't escape: what if Bella didn't always see her as a superhero? The roads were treacherous not just from the rain, but from the weight of those fears. As she approached Nathan's high-rise office, a sense of unease twisted in her gut. Drenched from the sudden downpour yet undeterred, she wiped away raindrops before entering a world that felt light years from her own, a world of polished suits and towering expectations. Nathan, a millionaire CEO buried in the suffocating glow of corporate success, had begun to seek solace in the ordinary, the scent of home-cooked meals that mingled with mundane deliveries. But Emily didn't know that yet. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As she entered the office, Nathan raised an eyebrow, not expecting the burst of energy that followed. Emily chatted animatedly about Bella's latest adventure, radiating a warmth he hadn't encountered in years. Yet, as she delivered this simple meal filled with love and aspiration, Nathan felt a disturbance within himself. A severe tugging at the strings of his conscience, making him question the very essence of his life. Could someone so ordinary inspire change? But back in his office, the shadows of his elite colleagues loomed large. As whispers of Emily's rising influence began infiltrating meetings, murmurs of judgment echoed. Would Emily, the delivery girl, really shine in this world? Nathan felt trapped between admiration and the suffocating expectations of his status. Could he defend Emily's worth in the corridors filled with scorn? Could he even hold on to the values that once defined him, especially when the voices of ambition grew louder, the tension escalated, and Emily sensed the stakes of her burgeoning opportunities unspooling like a thread in her fingers? The precarious balance between opportunity and chaos threatened to break. As she stood on the precipice of potential success, the backlash simmered just beneath the surface, waiting to strike. Would she lose the traction she gained, or would she stand firm amidst the storm? The deeper she delved into this new territory, the more unsettling the reality revealed itself. What if the comforts of her modest life seemed unsatisfactory under a spotlight? The critical moment of decision loomed, and both Emily and Nathan could feel the fracture lines forming beneath their alliance. Could they weather the impending dread? As the connection forged in shared struggles came under siege, a question hung ominously in the air: how much was too much to sacrifice for a chance at success, and at what point? Does ambition cast shadows over the heart? Emily inhaled deeply as she left Nathan's office, the weight of his gaze lingering like a tangible force that threatened to crush her spirit. Instinctively, she pedaled harder through the rain-dampened streets, the city's rhythm clashing with the cacophony of thoughts swirling in her mind. Each push of the pedals was a culmination of fear and resolve, stirring the question that echoed relentlessly: was she ready for this change? In her tiny apartment that night, Bella's laughter rang like sweet music, yet it couldn't fully pierce through the veil of uncertainty that enveloped Emily. While reading Bella's favorite story, Emily's anxiety surged anew. This was her chance to redefine their future, but would it come at the cost of her authenticity? The thought gnawed at her: if success distanced her from the simple joys of parenthood, was it worth pursuing? Lying awake, the shadows of her ambitions danced with memories of the struggles that brought them here. Each delivery honed her resilience, but now, she had to prepare for a new battlefield, one not just of strenuous hours on her bike, but of navigating the high stakes of corporate expectations. The fusion of her ordinary life with Nathan's elite world created a clash she had not anticipated. Her heart raced with the possibility of failure, and yet, the spark brewing inside hinted she was capable of more than mere survival. Motivated by this flickering flame, she crafted a vision for a catering side business that would capitalize on her culinary skills and cherished family recipes. She would draw inspiration from the warmth of her kitchen and the love she infused into every dish. In her mind, she pictured not just a means of security but a brand that represented authenticity, connection, and the refusal to compromise her values. Yet, the whispers of doubt remained. Did she really have the expertise to compete with established names? The following week, Emily began collecting feedback from friends and past customers, launching a small trial dinner service from her kitchen. Juggling Bella's needs and her own waning energy was exhausting, but the more she engaged with this venture, the more clarity emerged. Each positive comment fueled her motivation, proving her instincts weren't just wishful thinking. However, Nathan's increasing presence in this unfolding chapter was a persistent reality. As Emily collaborated with him to cater a corporate event, his reminders of the business world circled like hawks, a constant contrast to the heart she poured into each dish. She felt herself teetering, her heart yearned to showcase her culinary flair, yet the business acumen surrounding her felt nebulous and daunting. Confronted with the underlying fracture in their relationship, Emily decided to lay her feelings bare. She approached Nathan one afternoon, a tremor of vulnerability edging into her voice. "What if I'm not cut out for this corporate environment? What if I lose who I am along the way?" Nathan's frown deepened, revealing vulnerability beneath his polished facade. The tension in the air shifted, hinting at a deeper understanding forming in the impending storm. He stared at her, his own ambitions warring against a growing sense of kinship. The genuine conversation sparked discontent within Nathan as he unearthed his own fears of losing sight of what mattered. Their exchange ignited a shared awareness, a reflection of their personal dilemmas, each grappling with their paths and the prices they might pay. Together, they stood at a turning point, faced with choices that would define their futures. As a storm brewed outside, both felt the electricity in the air, not just of the weather but of the bubbling doubts and renewed determination between them. What was at stake now wasn't just Emily's venture but the very core of both their identities. With the night closing in, Emily pondered, how would her identity shape her approach to the burgeoning venture? As she prepared dinner that evening, her hands trembled with anticipation and fear. Was she ready to face the consequences of her decision, wherever they may lead? The clock ticked as a new chapter awaited, one that promised more than just culinary pursuit. It hinted at the intersection of ambition and authenticity. But the real question persisted: how far would she go to protect what mattered most without losing herself in the process? Emily's mind buzzed with questions as she prepped her ingredients the next morning. Her small kitchen felt like both a sanctuary and a battleground. Each chop of the knife was a reminder of her determination, and yet, beneath that resolute surface, doubt bubbled persistently. She had always been skilled at navigating the staccato rhythm of her life, a single mother working deliveries while nurturing dreams of something greater. But now, as she toiled over her culinary offerings, clarity began to waver beneath the weight of external expectations. The upcoming corporate event loomed large on the horizon. It was a high-profile affair that Nathan insisted they cater together. "This is your moment to shine," he had declared with an intensity that flickered hope in her heart. But what did it mean to shine? Would it require her to polish her raw instincts into the precise calculations of a calculated businesswoman? What if she lost herself in the process? As she mixed her grandmother's secret spice blend into a vibrant sauce, her thoughts shifted back to Bella. She couldn't bear the thought of sacrificing their fleeting moments of honesty and laughter for a life full of corporate success that felt foreign. The connection was fundamental and irreplaceable. She had to find a way to sustain both worlds, her daughter's world and the emerging business. When she arrived at the venue for the corporate event, the sprawling space buzzed with activity and sophistication. The lavish atmosphere would normally intimidate her, but today, it stoked a fire within her. As she set up her kitchen station, she absorbed the professionalism surrounding her. Wasn't this the environment Nathan thrived in? Yet, in her gut, she questioned whether she belonged here. Nathan came over to inspect her setup, a glimmer of pride in his eyes. "This, Emily, is the future fusion of your passion and professionalism." His words hung in the air, encouraging yet daunting. Her heart flared with ambition, a balancing act between the warmth of her roots and the intimidating heights of corporate expectations. With each dish she created that evening, Emily felt her confidence swell. Her culinary creations were simplistic yet rich with love and heritage. She watched as the first guests took their first bites, the expressions on their faces transforming into delight. The fulfillment surged through her, a reflection of who she was, not who the world expected her to be. As the event progressed, Nathan's presence became both an anchor and a sail. He navigated conversations effortlessly while she focused on her dishes. It wasn't just a showcase of her talent, it was their combined energy, the harmonious blending of their worlds that propelled her forward. But as the night wore on, she couldn't help but notice Nathan's subtle glances at the talented chefs around them. It sparked an uneasy awareness in her, the fear that her kitchen skills, while deep-rooted, needed to evolve into something more competitive. As the guests indulged and complimented her creations, Emily felt a palpable shift in her own mindset. Curiosity blossomed into a challenge to sharpen her business acumen, a determination to bridge the gap between her culinary passions and professional aspirations. Perhaps she didn't just want to survive, she wanted to thrive, but the taste of success was bittersweet. She was left pondering how to extract the courage to embrace the business side without sacrificing the essence that made her dishes personal and meaningful. As she cleaned up after the event, a new question gnawed at her: what will it take to build her brand while remaining true to herself? The hum of voices faded into the background as she stood alone, confronted with her tangled feelings about identity and ambition. It was clear she had crossed a threshold, but the road ahead bristled with uncertainties. As she stepped onto the cool street, reflecting on the night, she realized the real journey was just beginning, and as her feet hit the pavement once more, she resolved to confront the pivotal moment stirring within her, a moment that would test her strength and redefine her pursuit of authenticity and ambition. What path would she choose to forge as she teetered at this precipice? Emily's mind raced with possibilities as she walked away from the event space. Her heart thudded, part excitement, part dread, as she contemplated the road ahead. The applause and praise still echoed in her ears, but the weight of uncertainty had settled heavily on her shoulders. How would she balance her culinary dreams with the cold demands of the business world? That night, sleep eluded her. She tossed and turned, images of ambitious chefs and bustling restaurant kitchens intermingling with memories of her daughter's laughter. Each time Emily closed her eyes, a wave of questions crashed over her. What did it truly mean to embrace success? Was it merely a pursuit of recognition, or was it also a matter of remaining grounded in who she was? As dawn broke, the warmth of the sun seeped through her window, prompting a shift in her mood. She sat at the small dining table, sipping her coffee while absently cutting pieces of fruit for Bella. A quick glance at the newspaper lying nearby revealed an article about a struggling business making strides by emphasizing authenticity. It struck a chord with Emily. Could she carve her path by intertwining her culinary passion with the essence of her identity? Returning to the kitchen, she found herself reaching for her knife again, this time with renewed vigor. Her movements became more purposeful as she sliced and diced, replaying the previous evening's conversation with Nathan in her head. His belief in her abilities stirred a relentless urge to prove herself. Emily imagined how she could present her family's heritage through her food while simultaneously learning the nuances of the industry. As she prepped her ingredients, Emily called Bella to join her. "How do you feel about branding?" she asked playfully, testing the waters of an idea that had begun to form. Bella, slightly puzzled yet intrigued, shrugged. "Is that like branding cows? Because I think it's mean." Emily chuckled, amused and exhilarated by her daughter's interpretation. "Not quite. It's more about how people remember you. What makes you special?" "What makes you special, Mom?" Bella asked, her innocent curiosity cutting through Emily's fog of self-doubt. How to answer? Emily paused, flipping through the moments they shared: her love for cooking, the laughter over shared meals, the stories of her grandmother. "I think it's my food. It tells stories and reminds us of family." "Yeah. Like your tacos and that secret sauce you make." Bella's eyes sparkled. "You should make a sign that says Emily's food, it's magic." Emily found herself smiling. Her daughter's faith in her felt like a blanket warming her heart. They spent the day together in the kitchen, experimenting with new recipes and ideas, adding a touch of playfulness to each dish. Emily documented their creations on social media, piecing together images and stories reflective of their life. With each dish they plated, she envisioned how she might connect with a broader audience, one that could appreciate the roots of her culinary creations. But then, doubt crept in uninvited. Did people really care about her story? Would it resonate amidst the polished facades of professional kitchens? Later that evening, staring at her phone, Emily wrestled with the idea of sharing her recipes online. What if she pushed post and no one cared? But perhaps this was the moment she needed to embrace fully, an opportunity to take a step forward, however daunting. Determined, she opened the app and began typing. Every recipe has a story. The words flowed, intertwining her culinary experiences with heartfelt anecdotes. With a deep breath, she hit publish and felt the release of pent-up anxiety. But as notifications began flooding in, affirmations and encouragement came from friends and even strangers. Emily's pulse quickened. Maybe she had stumbled upon a new path. However, lurking beneath that initial thrill, a familiar apprehension churned. Would this new phase invite scrutiny, elevating her to a standard that she feared might crush her spirit? As she laid in bed later, her mind fought against sleep once more, and she found herself pondering what lay ahead. With the flicker of her phone illuminating her room, she scrolled through the comments. Among the supportive notes, a challenging one caught her. I put your money where your mouth is and compete at the Culinary Showcase next month. The thrill of adventure juxtaposed with her self-doubt swirled in a chaotic dance within her. Could she dare to enter the culinary world fully, to showcase not just her dishes but her very essence? Emily contemplated the journey she had embarked upon, inching forward bravely. The tension of the unknown buzzed in her veins. What choice would she make when that challenge faced her head-on? Would she rise to it, or would she retreat into the safety of the kitchen she had so carefully curated? A storm of emotions engulfed her, and as she drifted into restless sleep, she knew a monumental decision awaited her. One that would set the course of her life on a collision path with the dreams she had long harbored, challenging her to confront the very identity she was beginning to forge amidst the noise of her aspirations. Emily blinked awake to the dawn reluctantly spilling through her curtains. The harsh light exposed the mess of her mind, a jumbled maze of doubts and possibilities. The challenge that lay ahead loomed larger than life, casting a shadow over her usual morning rituals. She forced herself to rise, to face the day that demanded clarity and direction. As she brewed her morning coffee, the weight of the Culinary Showcase challenge hung over her like a dark cloud. Thoughts spiraled around the implications of participating, a stage where not just her food but her very spirit could be put on display. Was she ready for that level of exposure? With each sip of coffee, the comfort of routine clashed violently with visions of sharp knives and competitive heat in the kitchen. Maybe this was her chance to explore new depths within herself, but what if it revealed inadequacies instead? Determined, she set to work. Today, she would begin designing her entries for the upcoming showcase. She drifted into the kitchen, thoughts spinning, and began sketching ideas that breathed life into her culinary heritage. Tacos de la abuela came first, with memories of bustling family gatherings. Next was a modern twist on empanadas, marrying tradition with creativity. The act of creating reignited a spark in her chest. Each dish was a bridge to her past and a pathway to her future. She meticulously jotted down ingredients, profound stories, and innovative concepts, all while the world outside her kitchen hummed with life. It felt liberating to blend her history with newfound ideals. Yet a persistent question tugged at her: how would this fusion truly resonate with that audience? The afternoon sun was now at its apex as Emily stirred a simmering pot on the stove, her thoughts swirling around her recently published recipes. Registering the comments and engagement felt like an awakening. Her culinary narrative resonated, proving that vulnerability had power. This connection, could it be harnessed into something grander? What if she not only competed but also offered workshops that explored culinary roots? That evening, a message popped up: Nathan, her friend, and now an unexpected cheerleader, offering to help. "You need to show up," he insisted. "Imagine the people you could touch with your story. You could inspire others to embrace their identities as well." His enthusiasm ignited something within her. What if this wasn't just a showcase, she pondered. What if it turned into something larger? A seed of a vision took root. Sharing her journey could be as impactful as the food she prepared. Fueled by fresh energy, Emily pored over her draft notes, contemplating how to connect her submissions to the audience. She imagined standing in front of strangers, recounting an honest, unpolished tale of love and struggle, the challenges of motherhood intertwined with the art of cooking. Yet, the shadows of doubt tiptoed in again. Would she falter under the scrutiny? What if her story wasn't tea enough? What was she truly capable of, beyond the protective walls she had built around herself? Emily tossed aside the negativity, refusing to succumb to hesitation. It was imperative to discover not only the worth of her culinary skills but also to embrace the palpable possibility of her own narrative. As she turned off the stove and began cleaning the kitchen, a resolute pulse filled her chest. She would take the plunge. She would not only compete but would do so as her authentic self, showcasing not just her culinary prowess but also the legacy of her family. With her heart racing, Emily opened her laptop, ready to draft the pitch for her workshop concept. She wrestled with the details, wanting to illustrate the emotions each dish would evoke and how they spoke of resilience. Before she could talk herself out of it, she pressed send on the proposal, her hands trembling slightly. Would Nathan see potential? Would there be room for her in a space dominated by polished, professional chefs? The clock chased the sunset as she pondered her fate, the thrill of adventure igniting inside her. Tempered by whispers of doubt. Emily knew, deep down, she was standing on the precipice of something transformative. But what if this new venture brought not just success, but a confrontation with what she feared most, the true measure of her own worth in both life and culinary artistry? And as her phone pinged with Nathan's reply a cryptic, "You're onto something," the stakes felt higher than ever. Emily realized she had ventured far beyond a simple contest. She was on the brink of carving out a true identity, both personally and professionally. Just as she opened the door to her next move, a thought clenched her chest with both excitement and fear. Perhaps the culinary showcase was merely the beginning, a gateway to uncharted territory of self-discovery and achievement, a chance to reshape her destiny entirely. Would she be able to face what awaited her? Emily's heart raced as her eyes flitted between the blinking cursor on her laptop screen and the pile of spiraled notes filled with sketches and ideas. Each line traced the contours of her aspirations, yet the letters remained untouched in the digital void. Moving beyond the safety of her kitchen and revealing her story to the world felt like crossing a tightrope. One misstep could send her tumbling into an abyss of self-doubt. With a deep breath, she glanced out the window. The twilight hues danced across the sky, and for a moment, she found clarity amidst the chaos in her mind. Perhaps embracing her vulnerability could evolve from a risk into an opportunity. She reminded herself that every chef has a story, and maybe hers had the potential to resonate with others. Initiating a workshop felt like stepping into the unknown, but as this thought bloomed, another emerged, dark and shadowy. Who would take her seriously? Would seasoned professionals laugh at her dreams? Each question like an anchor, attempting to weigh her down, but Emily kicked back against the weight with resolve. Determined to solidify her thoughts, she moved away from the intoxicating comfort of doubt and toward the challenge ahead. She reclaimed the night, launching into her proposal with unyielding intent. Every line she composed became a battle cry, a declaration that her past, filled with struggles and love, deserved recognition. The essence of her kitchen's warmth seeped into her words, filling them with sincerity as she wove in family stories, failed attempts, triumphant moments, and the lessons learned from all. As the clock ticked away, Emily could feel the pulse of determination coursing through her veins. It was more than just competition, it was a platform from which she could ignite a movement her own. She envisioned a gathering where others could connect over shared experiences, where they could dive deep into their roots, shedding perfection for authenticity. With newfound clarity, she crafted her vision, an introduction to the significance of culinary heritage combined with hands-on cooking experiences that honor personal stories behind every dish. A workshop as a journey, where she could empower others to embrace not only their culinary skills but also their life narratives. Unexpectedly, a knock on the door jolted her from her focused trance. Nathan. She opened it, his usual exuberance radiating, immediately noticing the glint of excitement in his eyes. "I've got ideas to help you flesh out your workshop," he announced, as he trotted inside, carrying a backpack loaded with ingredients and tools. "We can cook and brainstorm together." He swept her into an aura of motivation, breaking through her self-imposed barriers. They soon found themselves surrounded by a flurry of activity in the kitchen, chopping, simmering, and tasting flavors. Nathan's laughter wrapped them both in a cocoon of encouragement as he expressed his belief in her potential, weaving all her fears into mere background noise. As dough was kneaded and sauces simmered, their discussion turned pragmatic. "You need to articulate why these dishes matter, Emily. What does your journey mean for others?" His question resonated deeply, a crucial moment where she confronted the essence of her craft. "I want them to see that cooking is not just about the food, it's about identity, struggle, and celebration," she revealed, assembling her thoughts with renewed energy. "It's a means to honor the paths that shaped us." By the end of the night, her proposal was complete, refined by both her insights and Nathan's suggestions. Nothing felt more exhilarating than bouncing these ideas off someone who understood her struggles and ambitions. Together they had created more than just a workshop concept, they had fashioned a manifesto, yet, beneath the excitement flickered an unsettling ember, the anticipation of judgment. What if the culinary community dismissed her ideas, preferring traditional formats over her narrative-driven model? She would have to confront these fears head-on when the time came to execute her plan. As they sat down to enjoy the meal concocted from their ideas, she felt a profound shift within. This newfound collaboration ignited a realization: she was not just a mother or a culinary enthusiast, she was a conduit for stories waiting to bubble to the surface. Just as she leaned back, savoring her moment of triumph, her phone buzzed again. A message from a local culinary critic floated in, inviting her to discuss potential partnerships. Her stomach fluttered at the implications of this message. Opportunities lay ahead, but so did risks. Would she rise to the occasion or falter under newfound scrutiny? With her heart racing and mind swirling, Emily prepared herself for a decisive confrontation, a moment where ambition clashed with her lifelong fears. As she considered her next move, a stark realization settled in: this journey was no longer just about competing in a culinary showcase but about claiming her voice and reaffirming her worth as a chef, a storyteller, a force of nature. Could she muster the courage to transform her ambition into action as she stepped closer to unveiling her true self? Emily stared at her phone, the message blinking back at her like a secret she hadn't yet deciphered. A local culinary critic, someone who could amplify her voice or reduce it to a murmur, wanted to discuss partnerships. Her instincts swirled between exhilaration and dread. She was standing at a crossroad, and every path seemed fraught with uncertainty. She set her phone down, her heart still racing from the potential it carried. Could this be the spark she needed, or would it only serve as a reminder of her inadequacies? She had spent years doubting her culinary worth in a world dominated by seasoned professionals, and now, the opportunity to step into the limelight felt overwhelming. Taking a deep breath, Emily summoned her resolve. She recalled Nathan's encouragement, how he believed in her ability to create an experience through food that went beyond mere recipes. "You need to show them who you are," she could almost hear him saying, his voice imbued with enthusiasm. But was she ready to expose the deep-rooted fears that plagued her, the nagging voice that suggested she didn't belong? She calculated her next steps carefully. The first task was to frame her narrative clearly. If she wanted to convey the importance of culinary heritage, she needed a concise story that echoed both her personal struggles and her culinary evolution. She opened her laptop again, fingers poised over the keyboard. This time, it wasn't about fighting off self-doubt, it was about embracing the doubt without letting it control her. Her mind wandered back to the kitchen memories that sparked her passion for cooking, the fragrant kitchens of her childhood, the scent of baked bread on a quiet Saturday morning, the gatherings that revolved around food and stories. Each dish she prepared had a backstory and a purpose, something lost in her previous attempts to fit into rigid culinary expectations. As she typed, the words flowed like a bubbling pot of gumbo, rich with flavor and meaning. Emily highlighted the notion that food was her life's canvas, each dish shaded with her experiences. All at once, she felt liberated. Words were no longer a prison but a pathway to articulate her identity. After refining her narrative, she looked at the clock, aware that time was fleeting. She had less than a week before her proposed meeting. The weight of the task felt heavy on her shoulders, yet there was no turning back now. She needed to confront her hesitation. She could no longer allow her susceptibility to judgment to dictate her actions. With renewed purpose, she made a list of points she wanted to emphasize in her meeting: the interconnectedness of culture and food, the significance of shared stories, and how her workshop could create an authentic space for others. This plan transformed her anxiety into a tangible agenda, guiding her focus for the upcoming discussion. Yet as she prepared, shadows of doubt emerged again, stubbornly refusing to retreat. What would happen when she finally faced the culinary critic? What if she stumbled over her words, inadequately designing her ideas? The fear of rejection loomed like a specter, whispering that her personal narrative wouldn't resonate or worse, would be dismissed as trivial. The night deepened, punctuated by the sounds of her cooking experiments. Each sizzle and stir reaffirmed her mission. It was in the heart of the kitchen, her sacred space, that she felt most in control, most alive. She began to see her kitchen as more than a domain for food preparation, it was a sanctuary for crafting her future. As she wrapped up her prep for tomorrow's meal, her phone buzzed again. Another message. This time, it was from Nathan, rallying encouragement for their next brainstorming session. She smiled, realizing that this was not just about her anymore. It was about the collective power of sharing stories, the connecting threads of vulnerability and resilience. But just as she was about to respond, another thought crept in. What if Nathan volunteered to present her ideas instead of her? What if she let someone else do the talking when it was her story to tell? Suddenly, the stakes felt more substantial than ever. The moment of truth approached, and as she nestled between excitement and uncertainty, she knew she had to decide. Would she allow her past to overshadow her present ambitions, or could she step into the light, ready to reveal her true self? The answer eluded her, leaving a palpable tension in the air as she contemplated her next move. Tomorrow would demand courage, and Emily steeled herself for the clash between her dreams and her doubts, unsure of which would prevail. Her story, fraught with complexity, was waiting to be told if only she could summon the strength to let her voice be heard. Would she seize this moment, or would hesitation guide her back into obscurity? Emily woke up with a sense of urgency tinged with apprehension. The light streaming through her kitchen window illuminated the remnants of her culinary creations from the previous night, their scents still lingering in the air. Every detail echoed her evolving identity, the spices, the colors, the very act of creation that had once felt daunting now brought a flicker of determination. She stepped into the kitchen, the cool tiles grounding her. The pressure of the upcoming meeting made the air feel thick, yet within that thickness lay a burgeoning resolve. Today, she would embrace her story, hoist it upon her shoulders, and make it known. She stood before her stove, and for a moment, she let her mind drift to when she first chose culinary school as her path. Those memories volleyed between bliss and anguish. She had defied expectations to carve out her space in this demanding world. If that didn't signify courage, what would? Her morning routine suddenly became ritualistic. As she whisked eggs and sautéed vegetables, she paused, considering the metaphor it offered. The blending of ingredients, the anticipation of heat transforming them into something greater, wasn't that a reflection of her journey? The act of cooking, of creating something wholesome from separate components, paralleled her own growth. She was not just preparing a meal, she was preparing for a revelation. As she moved through her tasks, her mind began to craft the narrative thread she would weave into her presentation. She envisioned the critic's face, the potential for surprise and connection sparking in their eyes as she unveiled the tapestry of her experiences, woven through each dish. With every slice and stir, she gathered the courage to depict her culinary heritage, a journey filled with struggles, triumphs, and a commitment to authenticity that would resonate beyond the palate. Yet, even as thoughts crystallized into a coherent structure, doubt seeped in like an unwelcome guest. What if the critic found her message lacking? What if her story of resilience was too personal, too granular? The very notion felt like a chisel against her heart, carving away at her resolve. In a decisive moment, she paused to confront her reflection in the kitchen window. The woman staring back was more than a self-proclaimed chef. She represented every single hour spent perfecting her craft, every struggle to reclaim her voice amidst an orchestra of louder counterparts. Of this self-recognition ignited a steadiness within her. What if she reframed her fear not as a hindrance but as an ally? It had propelled her this far. Each time she faced the heat of the kitchen, she had clashed with self-doubt, yet came out more refined. This meeting would not be a trial, it would be another opportunity to serve her truth on a plate, garnished with the tales of her journey. As Emily prepared the final touches to her menu, a thought struck her. She had always viewed culinary success through the lens of accolades and recognition. But what if she articulated her desires to connect with people instead? In every dish, her aim wasn't simply to impress, it was to evoke memories, emotions, and conversations. She envisioned her culinary workshop not as a showcase but as an intimate gathering where vulnerability and creativity intertwined. This perspective felt liberating, washing away the pressure with a sense of purpose. Just then, as she began to finalize her presentation materials, her phone buzzed with another text. This time it was a fleeting reminder from Nathan, urging her to stay focused. A grin crept across her face. If only he knew how pivotal his faith had been in shifting her mentality from apprehension to authenticity. She felt the weight of his words settle into her bones, providing a foundation for her resolve, but then, unbidden, another worrying question emerged. Was her focus on sharing her story enough to transcend the traditional criteria the critic might impose? As she grappled with this fear, trepidation clawed at her resolve, threatening to pull her back into a pit of indecision. She understood her moment was fast approaching, the meeting was only hours away. She needed to decide how to navigate that intersection of self-doubt and ambition. Would she risk revealing her most sacred culinary beliefs, or would she lean on the safety of conformity? Time was slipping through her fingers as she made her way toward clarity. The thought of the coming confrontation tightened her stomach, awakening a primal need for self-defense. For every ounce of fear, she felt a burgeoning will to fight for her identity, her passions, and her culinary voice. This could very well be the tipping point in her journey. As she stepped back from the counter, a single phrase crystallized in her mind, replicating the synchronicity she had long searched for. An idea worth sharing, a story worth telling. Could she channel her vulnerability into strength? The clock was ticking, and her moment awaited, pulling her ever closer to that defining moment. Determined, she slid her phone into her pocket, her heart racing at the thought of the impending challenge. Would she finally embrace her culinary identity, stepping into the criticism armed with authenticity, or would tradition strangle her spirit even before she could fight? The answer, she knew, was just beyond that door, waiting for her to confront it. Emily stood at the threshold of the meeting room, her heart pounding in her chest. The air felt electric, charged with the mixed scent of polished wood and anxiety. She glanced at her reflection in the glass door, her meticulously arranged hair brushing against the fabric of her crisp white blazer. This was the manifestation of her dreams, her fears, and her culinary ethos. As she pushed the door open, a gentle rustle greeted her, interspersed with murmurs from the gathered critics. Each face was a stark reminder of the expectations she fought against. The formidable critic sat front and center, a known skeptic whose reputation for harsh assessments preceded him. Emboldened by her recent revelations, she steeled herself for the challenge ahead. She had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in her mind and knew that now was the time to transform the mental rehearsal into a real performance. She began her presentation with a simple introduction that transcended the mundane, threading her personal story into the fabric of her culinary journey. Each word resonated with intense clarity, fueled by her desire to connect rather than merely to impress. As she spoke of her heritage, the influences that inspired her dishes, and the hurdles she had faced, she noticed the glimmer of interest flickering in the critic's eyes. The room, once charged with skepticism, began to soften. Food is not just sustenance, it tells a story, she emphasized, her voice robust and unwavering. My dishes are windows into my life, each flavor a chapter reflecting resilience, growth, and authenticity. But more than that, cooking is about creating a space for people to connect. She felt the shift in energy, an acknowledgement of her vulnerability unearthing a palpable empathy in the room, yet her mind spiraled into the depths of self-doubt once more. What if they heard her words through a critical lens? Just as she feared, the primal instinct to shield her heart kicked in. Was she genuinely prepared to face any potential backlash? As she paused to gather her composure, her vision flickered to Nathan's encouraging smile, which bloomed in her memory. That vision fortified her spirit. She pressed on with renewed vigor, determined to transcend her personal anxieties. Taking a deep breath, she started to unveil her flagship dish, a culinary hybrid that represented her heritage and aspirations. This was not just a meal, it was a celebration of flavors that encapsulated her identity. This is my curry-infused risotto, she explained, deftly plating each portion with meticulous care, the rhythmic clinking of utensils grounding her spiraling thoughts. It symbolizes the union of tradition and innovation, much like my journey in this industry. As she revealed the dish's deeper significance, she noticed the expressions on the critics' faces morph from skepticism to intrigue. They leaned forward, their apprehension dissipating with each word. Emily understood then that she was not just feeding their palates but inviting them to share in a meaningful exchange. She unearthed a sense of empowerment, fueled by the connection she fostered in that intimate space. Amidst the unfolding dialogue, the lead critic began to question her approach. Do you not think that such emotional storytelling could overshadow the technical excellence expected in culinary critique? His voice rang with authority, the weight of his question casting shadows on her momentum. For a heartbeat, she hesitated, battling the urge to retreat into self-doubt. His query echoed her own lingering fears. But rather than shrinking back, Emily harnessed this moment. She recognized that the very essence of her culinary identity lay in the tension between technical mastery and emotional resonance. Technical excellence and personal storytelling are not mutually exclusive, she asserted, her voice gaining strength. In fact, they are intertwined in a way that makes food not only a delight but a narrative, a piece of art that invites conversation. As the discussion unfolded, she realized her growing confidence was not just a performance, it was her truth materializing. The encounter ignited something dormant within, a realization that she was no longer the self-doubting budding chef but someone capable of wielding her narrative with power. But just as she felt the sway of triumph, the lead critic leaned in with a bold challenge. Are you ready to defend that this approach can redefine excellence in the culinary world? A chill darted through her, washing away the warmth of validation. The moment felt pivotal, a direct confrontation with her worth and vision. Emily had pushed far, but the battlefield was shifting, demanding an answer, an ideology, and perhaps even an allegiance. The challenge hung in the air, and for the first time since entering the room, she questioned her resolve. Would she stand her ground, facing the volatility of the industry, or falter under the weight of expectations? The room seemed to close in, hearts racing as they awaited her response. Time elongated as she searched within, desperate for an answer, an epiphany that would carve her path forward in defining her role in the culinary narrative. The clock ticked, and the opportunity to embrace or retreat loomed larger with each second. What would she choose? The answer was terrifying yet liberating, standing just at the edge of her courage. Emily stood at the epicenter of her upheaval, the critical moment shimmering before her like a mirage. It was now or never. With the weight of expectation pressing down, she felt herself transform. It wasn't just about culinary finesse, but a showcasing of identity that extended far beyond the kitchen. The world she stepped into that fateful day, a world filled with polished exteriors, felt less daunting now, for she had done the unthinkable. She had entwined her essence, her story, within each dish and recipe she shared. In that moment of reckoning, Emily took a breath deep enough to cast aside the claustrophobic grip of doubt. I am ready, she declared, her voice resolute. Not only am I prepared to defend my culinary journey, but I'm also eager to reshape what excellence looks like in our industry. Excellence is not merely about the technical skills but equally about the narratives we carry and share. A hum of surprise rippled through the audience. Here was a woman who refused to merely exist as a note in the louder orchestra of the culinary world. This was a declaration of independence not only for herself but also for the countless others whose stories echoed hers. As she continued, a newfound assurance illuminated her words. Food is a reflection of our struggles, our families, our cultures. It's an evolution of love and heritage. When we neglect the stories, we dilute the experience. The culinary art should be alive with connection, not deadened by mere execution. Each word reverberated in that room of seasoned critics. The lead critic watched her, engaged, a tactic she had long wished for. Emily noticed as she spoke that she had them captivated, even if just for a moment. The conversation deepened, each exchange forming a bridge between traditional expectations and her innovative focus. Beyond her culinary ambitions, she embodied a movement of authenticity, bringing past and present together with sustainable vision. A flicker of understanding shone in the critic's eyes, and her resolve solidified under that gaze. That moment revealed to her what she had been fighting all along. She stepped beyond the confines of self-doubt into a shared reckoning of growth. By the end of her presentation, Emily's narrative had transitioned from a whispering echo of vulnerability to a powerful proclamation of ambition. She was done compromising her essence for the sake of acceptance. She had succeeded in harmonizing her culinary pursuits with her identity, a victory that felt long overdue. Months later, Emily reaped the rewards of that confident stand. Her culinary workshop was a resounding success, capturing not just the attention of food enthusiasts but also empowering participants to weave their personal stories into their cooking. Media outlets celebrated her vivid approach. She became a sought-after speaker at food seminars, emphasizing the power of storytelling in creating memorable cuisines. Although the road ahead was still riddled with challenges, competitive cuisines, the demand for validation, external criticism, she bore her acceptance with pride and resilience. Emily now stood embraced in a community where her influence flourished, having transformed from the uncertain delivery girl to a respected chef who commanded the narrative in her kitchen and beyond. With the world so eager to hear her tales, she dazzled as she whipped up meals that were not only delicious but resonated with the heart. Each recipe she crafted breathed her journey, and more importantly her triumph over past insecurities. As she served delicious plates to her patrons adorned with the essence of her history, she marveled at the transformation wrought from within herself, redefining not only her identity but the import faced by others in the culinary field. Emily stood tall, her heart full, having achieved a life entwined with authenticity and empowerment. She smiled knowingly, she was where she was meant to be. Authentic, confident, and above all, her true self. And now is your moment to step into a transformative journey. Subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. You need to show your support. Comment below your reactions and theories about this ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.